Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 with myself, Soham, and my fellow co-founder, Tarun.
Hey,
Um, this episode 5 is about tennis, technology in tennis. Of course, tennis being the primary point of discussion, and we would also love to discuss a little bit of evolution of various aspects of tennis. And we're very excited to be here. We're missing Alex, but hey, she's there in spirit. Uh, anyway, so we got great feedback from our two-part episodes on the brain game and mindset in tennis.
yeah,
And we are extremely excited by, great appreciation for both of our episodes because I think we were able to relate it to the general public as well as tennis geeks, avid tennis players, and a bunch of other people who are associated with the game of tennis. So we are very, very happy that we got very good feedback about that
yeah.
episode. So here we are today. It's nice weather outside, but we're indoors on a Saturday evening here. Um, would love to have a great conversation with Tarun about technology in tennis. And Tarun, why don't you talk a little bit about, you know, how are we doing on the social media angle?
Oh, yes, that's my favorite topic. So,
Of course.
guys, again, a warm welcome to everybody to the Tennishackery podcast. We are a group of extremely passionate San Francisco Bay Area AA-based tennis geeks slash coaches. Uh, on all the socials, which is we are on Instagram, X, Meta, YouTube, and Spotify as at Tennishackery. So that's our handle. Uh, we will get on the other podcasting platforms soon. And as for our website, we have actually made some good progress, but it is still not live yet. So if you go to tennishackery.com, you will still see a nice little piggy, which is basically our cloud hosting provider. The site will be launched soon. Uh, Again, blame the IT person, which is all right. Without further ado, uh, let's get started. Like get launched into the episode. So when you see that tennis hackery is based on like the fundamental pillars of tennis hackery are wholesome tennis, which is basically fitness, uh, the brain game, and the final thing is of course technology. So we discussed the first two, and this completes the final leg of tennis hackery. This is an extremely surface level exploration of the various technologies that tennis uses, and we kind of try to trace the evolution. So this is a very surface level exploration. You will get things out of it in terms of how these technologies have evolved and possibly how to use them, what is out there. So hopefully, uh, all of you guys and girls find this useful. All right, let's get started. So, well, uh, the first thing about tennis, anybody steps on the court is the racket and the ball, and of course you step on a tennis court. So get started with the tennis racket. So Soham, let if you can let me know about what has your experience been with these different types of equipment. Like, have you used wooden rackets first of all? And if you have, then you must be at least 60 years old.
Well, I didn't want you to reveal my age, but now that you have, but the jokes aside, I actually did start my tennis journey as when I was 4 years old with a wooden racket, and till date, I still have my first two wooden rackets, and they're actually pinned to my wall. So every day when I wake up, that's the first thing I see. Hey, it reminds me of how I started my tennis game. But I do really, really like the way they're made. So
Yeah,
it's like I would want to keep it for life. So I'm very happy that I did start with that.
yeah.
But I understand that as we have moved on, there's been a shift from wooden to steel to aluminum, and we are using graphite technology now, lightweight, and there's so much that has changed. Like there is better control, there is more power, with lightweight technology, there's more better maneuverability, and there has been such an advance in the technology, and it's there's also better ability for players to use spin as well.
Yeah.
So definitely, and it's like graphite technology was introduced in the 1970s, and until what we see today is players are using a lot of natural power because they're able to use like lightweight technology, and there's also like more flexibility in the head size. And also, one of the things I forgot to mention is with wooden rackets, the frame size. I mean, the size of the racket head
Yeah.
was much smaller. I mean, what was
Yes. Little ones,
between
yeah.
65 to 85 square inches, whereas the modern day rackets are
Yeah.
anywhere between 95 to 130, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So definitely, that what does that mean? It means you have since this head size is bigger, there is the it is increased the size of the sweet spot,
Yeah.
and so it makes it a lot easier for players to hit the shot, hit the ball more cleanly, right?
Yeah.
And the change in the racket has had a profound impact on the game of tennis overall, whether it's strategy, whether it's use of more spin, more power. And then, of course, there are other things like, hey, we have different surfaces that we play on. There's also different strings that people are
Yeah.
using in today's
Yeah.
technology. And, Tarun, this is where I want to kind of ask you, so many people, so many of my students that I teach come and ask me, hey, so coach, which string do we use? Which racket do we buy? And I'm always like, you gotta like use something that you're comfortable with, because when you end up playing matches, you don't want to use something just because, oh, hey, my friend is using this
Yeah.
racket, so let me also use it.
Yeah.
It's more like what fits your game style more. What are you more comfortable with?
Yeah.
Whether it's the size of the grip, whether it's the weight of the racket, or is the type of strings. What can you give us a little
Yeah.
bit about your knowledge? You work with kids as well at
Yeah.
a junior team tennis level.
Yeah.
A little bit about your experience with rackets, a little bit about strings, and anything else that you can
For
talk
sure.
about.
Yeah. So from a racket, I would definitely, so rackets and strings are extremely important. And, we will definitely bring experts to just go in depth into this in a separate episode. But just to skim the surface, with rackets, like Soham mentioned, with the more modern materials, you have parameters like frame stiffness, which basically says how stiff a racket is. A stiff racket, the frame doesn't bend much, which means that, then there are more flexible frames. And, each have their pros and cons. In one case, one will uh, absorb the absorption of the ball's energy will transmit the shock to your arm. So things like that. So we won't go too much into detail, but these are things to be kept in mind. Frame stiffness and things like how the weight of the racket is distributed. Whether it's head light or head heavy. Moving on, the thing that's very important that has changed are strings for sure, like Soham you mentioned. I mean, I think in the olden days it used to be like extremely natural strings, natural materials. The gut,
Right,
it's
right.
basically intestines of, I guess it was pig or some animals in those days. And then it moved on from. Fun fact, by the way, uh, the company Babolat, I believe their business was based on this. So they did not start out as a tennis string manufacturer, but something to do with musical instruments made of from such materials. I think piano, something to do with pianos. But yeah, then they eventually moved on to specialize in tennis equipment. Anyways, so from those materials, it moved on to more. Nylon was introduced, synthetic, more artificial strings in 1950s, and then it moved on to multi-filament. And now the modern thing, everybody is polyester. So basically what this has allowed is uh, the natural strings and even multi-filament to a certain extent, they are more for feel. You can the players who love for instance, serve and volleys, net players, you can nicely have a good feel on feel and punch of the ball on the racket strings. Polys allow you to really arc the ball high up with spin, take big cuts at the ball, but make the ball land dip with good topspin. So it's essentially the friction when the ball meets the racket, and the launch angle of the ball of the racket. Again, these I am way out of my depth in these things, but the idea is to introduce you to what is out there and what to look for.
Tarun, I have a quick question. While you were talking
Mm.
so many great things that you mentioned, right? There's a lot of material, like you
Right.
said, we probably can do an entire episode with
Absolutely.
probably more expert
Yes.
subject matter experts in this area that we would
Yep.
love to bring on for our episode. I had a question for you. Again, this is something that a lot of my friends who play tennis sometimes ask me. I am no expert anyway on this. It's like, is there, a lot of rackets give people like problems in terms of
Right.
like it's painful for their arms,
Yep.
elbows, other
Yep.
parts of their body. Like, how do we determine what works for us in terms of like, do we have to like iterate through a bunch of strings, or is this a certain tension that you're supposed to string at? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so those things are you really need to talk to. I would definitely recommend talking to racket experts. I think the USTA and PTR, they do have master racket technicians. I think they call it racket experts. But from what I know, I think lots of these things depend on if your arms are hurting, we might want to look at frame stiffness, like if the shock is going. But the first thing I would start with is strings. So whether maybe you want to, if you're using heavy polys are notorious for causing arm trouble, I believe. So maybe go to a multi-filament strings, change them more often, use a thinner gauge, thinner strings, which means that they will break early, and but you'll probably get the best out of them in terms of power. So I mean, there are certain things to go by.
And in terms of tension on the strings, is it
Yeah.
generally, do you go with the recommended tension range, which is identified usually on the racket, or
Yes.
it's like very personal based on your style of play?
Yes, definitely it's personal based on the style, but stay within the parameters that's recommended by the racket manufacturer.
For me, like, I don't really experiment too much with
Yeah,
like the tension. It's
yeah,
like I have a set tension that I play with, I'm comfortable with, and it's a
yeah,
set strings that I use, and I
yeah.
keep using them. And it's again, like I mentioned, it's kind of depends on your comfort level, right?
Absolutely, yes, yes.
Uh, so that's the other thing. And then on the side question, Tarun, like, do you have a string machine at home? Do you string
No,
yourself?
no, I haven't learned to string. I'm at a point where both my kids are playing tennis, and
Right.
my tennis activity has slightly increased at coaching. I'm at a point where yeah, it is getting more expensive to to go to a stringer. So maybe I will get a machine and learn myself. But yeah,
One of the things I was wondering is maybe for the benefits of some of our viewers, maybe we can give them some tips at some point on how do you string a racket, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
a lot of my friends are actually shifting towards, learning how to
yeah,
buying string machines and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I just thought, I'll
yeah.
ask you what are your
Yeah.
thoughts about that.
How about you? Do
Uh,
you string? Do you string? Have you learned to string or no?
I'm actually very curious. I think eventually
Yeah.
I'm going to buy a stringing machine. Some of
Yeah.
my friends on my teams have already done that, and
Yeah.
it saves them a ton of time actually.
Yeah.
And you get better as you string more
Yeah.
rackets. And
Yeah.
of course, you can do it for your friends if needed. But it's a little bit of a time commitment.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I
I
heard
think there's
was
manual. There's also
yes.
automatic.
Yes.
Uh, I am no expert in this area. Again, we
No,
can
no
call
clue.
on some other experts.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about slightly different direction here, but it's related to sort of the evolution of tennis in terms of the racket, strings, and all of that. Is about the different court surfaces.
Yes. Yes.
I think Tarun, why don't you introduce a little bit of the history without going too much in detail,
Yeah.
and then I can talk about my experience on the
Oh, sure,
courts.
sure, for sure. Yeah. So the thing is, again, I have the science. It's this the court surfaces are like a lot of material sciences involved, but I think from what I know, it was a lot of it started out with natural surfaces like grass and clay courts. Clay courts, obviously, both clay and grass need a lot of maintenance. In fact, at some point, I think the US Open used to be played at Forest Hills, I believe, near New York, and that used to be a grass court, and until they switched it to hard courts. So yeah, so a lot of the early tennis early was played on these natural surfaces, and of course, and then you have hard courts, which is basically concrete cement covered with new artificial materials like acrylic, And then, of course, for indoors, they use carpets. Like for instance, for stadiums, indoor stadiums where, you want to make a pop-up tennis court. So, they just roll the carpet and, make smooth the surface, roll the carpet out. So yeah, how has your experience been? You started out on clay, right? Or grass?
I did. Before I even go to before my journey on playing on different surfaces, I just want to make sure for people who are so we want to also cater to people who don't necessarily follow a lot of tennis.
Yep.
We want to make sure that they want to play tennis.
Yes, for
So,
sure.
by the way, there are 4 main Grand Slam events, and they're on 4 different surfaces. There's Australian Open. Is that Ace Free? Is this synthetic?
Yeah, I believe it's synthetic, and I
It's
think
synthetic.
they're hard courts. Yeah, synthetic hard courts.
Hard court. So that's Australian Open, which happens in January. Then there is French Open. There's a little bit of a gap between the 2 Grand Slams. It happens on clay court, my favorite surface in Paris, Roland Garros. Then we move to Wimbledon, which is on grass. Beautiful event, one of the best. I've actually visited.
Hey, I'm wearing a Wimbledon hat. Here, look at this.
Oh, that's right. I have one too, actually. I got one.
It was
too.
a gift
It's
from a
iconic.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's iconic. So
Yeah.
there's grass court, which is Wimbledon, and then we finish off the year with U.S. Open, which is usually late August, early September, and that's on hard court.
Yes.
And I think the ATP Tour Finals is usually indoors on carpet.
Carpet or hard court. Carpet or hard court. Yeah.
Carpet. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody who's listening in, who doesn't maybe follow the tennis in that much detail, understands that the pro players do have Grand Slam events, which are the main events on these 4 different surfaces, and around the year they are playing on different surfaces throughout. So tennis is not just one surface; there are different surfaces, which is what makes it interesting and more difficult because you have to adapt your tennis game strategy, whatnot, power, spin, all of that control on different surfaces. So hey, we love tennis for various reasons. It's also really hard, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
I went on a big digression.
No, that's
but
good,
coming back to your original question, Tarun. Yes, so I kind of grew up on clay. It's not, so I grew up in India. It's not technically clay, it's more like sand, but it's like pseudo clay. So I have that style of a clay courter where I grind. It's like it's slow, it's very difficult, it's very tough on your body. You have to be physically very fit. On
be ready to run a lot. But
you do, and the bounces are different, right?
Yes.
And there's that's clay is tough, right? Physically and mentally, actually. Then we also in the where I played tennis in India growing up, there were also a couple of grass courts. Very difficult to maintain. It's not there anymore. It's become hard court. But I got an opportunity to hit a little bit on the grass court. Very different, very different. So I respect a lot of these professional players who go from clay to grass and they're able to win on both surfaces. That is insane, right? So yeah, I mean, I played on grass. It's it skids, it's fast, so it's perfectly suited for a big server volleyer, right? Comes onto you really fast.
Yeah, they don't want to let the ball bounce at all. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So then now, I have ever since I moved to US, I primarily played on hard courts, both outdoors and indoors. I love both, like indoors is fascinating. It's just not enough of it in the Bay Area. Like I know in the East Coast, there's more indoors because of the weather, but I love outdoors, it's beautiful. And one thing I really wish is like we get more clay courts because at heart I'm a clay courter. I love that surface a lot. I love that both the body blows that clay court tennis, kind of grinding tennis brings you. So yeah, that's kind of my experience. Of course, different courts have different bounce, different speed, and you have to adapt, and different levels of power needed to to keep the rallies going. So that's been my experience, and it's fascinating, honestly. I don't know about you, Tarun, like anything you want to say?
No, so the thing that I wanted to mention was, of course, from a technology and evolution perspective, I think a lot of the tennis is now being played on the hard courts, probably because it's economical, right? Like there's hardly any maintenance needed, better uh, water dissipation, like water doesn't stand there and things like that. So I think most clubs do invest more, clubs and facilities, they definitely go for more hard courts. It's just easier. They just need to resurface it once in every few years and just resurface the top, and it's pretty much good to go.
Yeah, great. So I
Yeah.
quickly wanted to ask you something. I was thinking about asking you this earlier. Tarun, like, especially for juniors, kids, and all of that, even for adults, like, just can you just give a one-liner, two-liner, maybe max on like ball machines? I know
Yeah.
it's very different. Like, I don't think there was any ball machine back in the day.
Yeah.
It's a new technology. I know when I was growing up in India, like accessibility to tennis courts actually was limited, and it was
Yeah.
also very expensive. So I kind of hit against the wall.
Yep.
Now, you know, especially if you don't have anyone to play with. Well, by the way, caveat here, just want to say something out for, out to people who are listening who don't necessarily have access or people to play with. Wall is a fantastic way of improving your hand-eye coordination. So do hit against the wall. Don't abandon it.
The wall doesn't miss.
Exactly. So back to my question about ball machine. There was no ball machine when I was growing up. Like, can you talk a little bit about have you
Yeah.
used a ball machine and like
Yes.
can it help your game? Like, and there are different types of ball machines, I
Yes.
believe.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, ball machines definitely help your game. So it specifically helps your game. It's a great coaching aid if you're working on a specific skill. Because I know of people who have literally like older adults who have switched from a one-handed backhand to a two-handed backhand with good form. And you ask them what they did. They said, "I spent a lot of time with the ball machine. It's just targeted feeds." And yeah, so based on what's out there, there are lots of these branded ball machines out there. I think a lot of these things evolved from, I think, a single wheel ball machine in which mm, you basically have a wheel spinning and it spits the ball out, and ab- uh, so the amount of spin is limited, but now they have multiple two wheels ball machines which uh, uh, based on the differential between the two wheels, they spin at different rates, slightly changed angles, so they can produce multiple spins, slice, top spin, things like that. So I think the ball machines, the common ball machines that I have seen now are like Lobster is very popular, Spin Shot. One of the things that I like is the Proton Hydrogen Sports. It's a Bay Area based company. And I have one of those. I've seen a lot of those. It's very portable. And again, no endorsement. I'm just talking about what we have personally experienced with. It's pretty portable. Then so yeah, so basically the ball machines is a great coaching aid in terms of working on specific shots and shot sequences. So basically you can program it to give you two cross courts, one down the line and then one short ball, things like that. So the machine is going to feed you at different depths, angles, and with the smartphones, many of these they are programmable with your smartphone. So you can literally set up a sequence of shots, and it will continue the sequence, with breaks, and pretty much and drill you.
That's so cool. Like, I
Yeah,
feel that could be the way,
yeah,
technology, that kind of technologies could be where we are heading towards. I mean,
yeah.
some of my students, kind of tell me, hey, I have a certain time of the day where I can play and there is nobody to play with. So what do I do? Shall I invest in a ball machine? I'm like, ball machine's kind of expensive. I'm not necessarily a fan of ball machine because I feel like playing against a real human being
Right.
is more advantageous because everybody has sort of a different style of play, and you really, if you're training for tournaments and competition, it's better to play against like an actual person.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But I'll tell you, I have used the ball machine and it's a freaking workout, like it's not
yeah.
easy.
It's
And
not
of
easy.
course, with the change of settings and everything, so it can actually help you work
Yeah.
on certain
Yes.
certain aspects of
For
the
sure.
game. So, you know, you s- you spoke something interesting about just programmable stuff, and we have buzzwords like artificial intelligence and all
Mhm.
of that kind of stuff, and technology, and use of phones and sync and all of that. I kind of want to shift our conversation to uh, technology, like real hardcore technology. Because hey, we are Bay Area tech people, right? What are we going to talk about on a Saturday night?
Yeah.
Technology.
Yep.
So this is the fun part of for us, fun part of the episode where we talk strictly about technology. First thing, so we are in the era of like apps, right?
Yep.
And monitoring and tracking. So, Tarun, you're as in the introductory episode, you call yourself the techie, right?
You're holding me to it, huh?
I know now we're gonna really test how much of a techie you are. Ask you some questions here.
Yeah.
So, what are the tools, technologies, what's out there in terms of, I know, let's start about like sensors and
Yeah.
things related to the bio, right?
Yeah.
Biosensors and whatnot. Tracking sleep, hydration, heart rates. To tell me a little bit more about why these things, what is out there, and why
Yeah.
these things are important for a wholesome tennis player.
Right. So from a fitness perspective, right? So whether it's not just limited to tennis, but any kind of athletic, workouts or other sports, lots of things are being like tracked and measured. So for instance, heart rate. Um, a lot of these, high performance athletes, they definitely go with chest heart rate monitors where it's more accurate as opposed to wrist monitors. Then you have things like force plate technology where things are put in your shoes and that detects how much how you're moving, how is your change of direction, your acceleration, deceleration. Then you have things like sleep tracking, how's what's the quality of sleep. And then I think some of these products are like something like an I think it's O-ring or something like that. It's called. Maybe I'm getting the name wrong. Please don't hold me to it. We will link it in the show notes. So there are some companies which do a lot of sleep tracking and analytics. So basically, you want to see if you have recovered properly. One of the new things that have come up, interesting things that have come up that I heard about in the PTR Racket conference is hydration tracking. So normally what people do is uh, people do sweat tests for to see how much hydration is, basically test amount of saltiness in the sweat or amount of so there is this company called MX3, I believe. So what they do is called salivatory osmolarity. I'm again, this is a buzzword. What they talked about is, so they measure the hydration rate through the saliva, and it's very fast. So I don't know if you have to look at the peer-reviewed studies, but I do hear that stuff is being promoted. USTA is also taking part in some of these tests, and results are encouraging. So I mean, there's so much things out there. Like I mentioned, sleep tracking. You have monitoring the movement, monitoring heart rates, hydration. So yeah, so some of these are biomarkers, but there are other things as well. So for instance, um, if you want to do you want to go into other topics? Like, should we discuss match charting and stuff?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a quick question. I was
Mm.
thinking about something, right?
Yeah.
Like, are there two technologies out there, like apps or other services out there where, if somebody's like struggling with like heat or something like that, it happens, right?
Yeah.
And are there like data out there which alerts them that they need to take caution, or something? Because that could be useful stuff.
Yeah, that could be useful for sure. But in terms of nutrition and things like that, definitely there has been uh, Uh, so in terms of alerts, I'm not very sure. But what I do hear is there are glucose monitors, there are wearable patches. A lot of these wearable tech is out there. But in terms of nutrition itself, there is a lot of sports science that has been done in terms of what do you need like to battle the heat. So electrolyte drinks, these things, they have evolved with the amount of sodium and carbs that they put in them. So based on your medical needs and your profile, uh, you may have to you may have to your mileage may vary. But what the one thing common thing that I've heard a lot is, like, I'm a cramper. I do third set of hot days, I do tend to cramp. And one of the good things is what people talk about is the sweat test. I will link some of these things in the show notes. There are lots of companies out there, one of which I believe is called Precision Hydration. what these guys do is they send you spreadsheets and what is your sweat profile, and then you track based on over time. And then basically it's they have a product which is sodium based essentially. So a lot of these gels, tablets, electrolyte packs, a lot of these things have evolved over time, specific to specific sports. Triathletes have different requirements compared to tennis people. So yeah, there's a lot of things out there. Yeah.
Great, great. Again,
Yeah.
like we can probably take a deep dive into these
Yeah.
kind of topics with more like experts in these areas, which
Yes,
we might do.
absolutely.
So definitely, like I want to take a quick um, transition
Yeah.
to make a transition to our next topic, which is more about data analytics, like whether
Yeah.
it's what is it, match charting, like biomechanical analysis and video capture and all of that. And I know that in our coaching, at least, we are
Yes.
trying to introduce a lot more of these techniques
Yes.
to create sort of that wholesome tennis player.
Right.
Tarun, I know I love the fact that you know so much history about tennis because you're my go-to person for history. So for sure I'm not going to be the one who's going to talk about history. Or so I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah.
What can we say about data analytics? What is the history? How have we
Yeah.
evolved? And take it away.
Yeah. Thanks. So I think back in the day, from what I have read about this topic, so they used to, everything was done on pen and paper, right? So match charting. So people would literally, if a player is playing, somebody from the players, group would go and chart the match. What happened in each point. A lot of data would get lost, but that was how it was done, and then you would compile the data. The interesting thing is the first innovation that I've heard of came from uh, nearby by Dr. Bill Jacobson. He came up with the tennis computer. It's one of those only I think 3 or 4 thousand of those units were sold back in the 80s. We link to it, so it's basically a little computer with a keyboard, and you can as the match is going on with specific key combinations, you can code what shot was played, did a point end, how did it end, serve, winner, so key combinations. It's very interesting. Only a few thousand of those units were sold. So that's how I think it started, and then a lot of this was done, fed into the press boxes from where they would get these analytics for pro matches. And of course, then then you can say that companies like IBM, IBM Slam Tracker, these guys, they track how with multiple camera placements, they track how a professional match is going on, measuring stuff from multiple angles, where the player was. So they would do all this, and then now these things have become more automated, right? So now you have companies like Playsight. Playside is a big player where they have these Playside courts with cameras, multiple angles, and then they have a station where you can see what happened on the court, your player positioning, what height you hit the ball, where were you when you hit the ball.
I believe
Yeah.
that's at Stanford University.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I have seen a Playside court there. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So and then Hawkeye is a big Hawkeye technology is quite big in this. So what these people do is again high speed, high frame rate cameras, multiple cameras. I believe in tennis they use 10 of them to look at the ball trajectory, and then that is used for line calling, and again for more accurate showing the statistics, like how many balls went where was the player hitting from, things like that. So Hawkeye is a big game changer, not only in tennis, but I think they did it for other sports as well.
They did. In
Yeah,
fact,
yeah,
they're introducing that, and I believe in tennis, IBM may have started it, and now like Infosys has some
yeah,
hold on it, and like from a fan engagement aspect of it, right? Like
right.
it's I know that there is sometimes a delay.
Yeah,
People talk about like because of referring to the
yeah, yeah,
video,
yeah.
but it helps with the accuracy, right?
Yes,
And that's
yes,
what
for
we
sure,
care about. We
for
we
sure.
want accuracy in sports.
Yes, for sure.
Then there is an argument about okay, human versus tech. Do you really you kind of lose that human touch
Yeah,
once you start
yeah.
introducing tech? This is a debate argument
Yeah,
that's never going to like end.
yeah. But which side of the debate are you on? Which side of the fence are you on?
Like I think I have been on both sides at different times, but I think I do care about accuracy,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
but I do care about accuracy. But you know what? I think I have an answer. I think I like the human touch
Hmm.
because I feel it's more personable. Sort of. I know that we can make mistakes, but that's fine, right? No
Yeah.
one's perfect. I
Yep.
mean, at some point, even like technology may not be perfect.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep.
why take humans out of the picture?
Yeah.
But hey, being a techie, being in the Bay Area, this I might get some, you know, backlash.
Yeah, yeah. I'm firmly in the technology camp. I mean, for me,
I
it's
know
like
that.
if it's there, use it, and so that's what.
See, that's why we are a team, Tarun.
Yeah. Yep. We think
Like you have a
different.
different opinion, I have a different opinion. We kind of complement each other. Our mission and goal is the
Yep.
same.
Yep.
We want, honestly, what we want to do, like, and in all seriousness, I think a hybrid of sort of human touch and technology is the ideal, is the goal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There should be elements of both. So yeah, so that's thanks for bringing up about the
Yeah.
Hawkeye, because that's definitely one of the things.
Yeah.
um
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one of the things.
yeah.
So about the fan engagement, I think since you brought up that, I heard you mention about fan engagement. So
Yes.
like in terms of coverage, a lot of these things are happening in terms of, so like for instance, the best way to follow a tournament, in my opinion, if you are not there, is through the app. So US Open, the slams, they release an app, and all of that has real-time data of, so basically, when is the match starting, the schedules, what is the live score, what is the match statistics. So all these are updated in real time, and all your social feeds and what is this player saying. So I would highly recommend, like, for people to get those apps right before the tournament start and favorite your players, and then you will basically get notifications as to when they're stepping on court, and what's going on. I mean, you obviously you have to pay for a TV subscription to watch it, which really
Of
sucks,
course.
and don't get me started on that, how bad it is. But
Well,
yeah.
nothing is free,
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
No free
Yeah.
lunches. But since you brought it up, and it's
Yeah.
kind of related to fan engagement, um we all got to admit that being there live in person is very different from watching it on TV, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whenever you get the chance, and I tell my juniors, my students, junior tennis players, you got to go watch it live. You'll see it. Yes, I understand the coverage and broadcast,
Yeah.
TV and internet and all of that, but at the end of the day, I think being there live at the stadium is a completely different feel.
Yeah.
Nothing can replace that, which is something I'm going to ask you right now. Could be an interesting sort of discussion. What's the future of tennis? Are we going to see like virtual reality or augmented reality introduced?
Yes, it's quite possible. I mean, just sit in a room, 3D coverage, experience the whole stadium around you, maybe. Or maybe a holographic display around you.
Uh,
That's going to be
yeah, I
cool.
don't know about that one, like,
Yeah,
but I
or
thought I'll
just
ask you because I
yeah,
know you're techie, and I know like you follow what's going on in
yeah,
the world.
yeah,
This is a possibility,
yeah, yeah. If you've seen the Hunger Games, where they have a real-time monitoring of what's going on in these players, their real-time heart rate, and what's going on. That's going to be fun, man.
I know.
Yeah,
I am curious to see
yeah,
where this,
yeah,
and it's not just tennis. I think it's going to happen to a lot of other sports.
yep, yep, for sure.
That's without doubt. So we've spoken about a bunch of things. Now let's talk about like how does it relate to rec players or players like us, or juniors, singles, doubles, irrespective.
Yeah,
What kind of tools out there,
yeah,
technologies out there that can help us improve our game, optimize
yes,
our performance? Do you
yes,
have any recommendations? Because that to the general public
yes.
who's listening to us or watching us is probably very relevant.
Yeah, for sure. So the the best tools, one of the best tools that you have now is in the pocket, probably in your pocket, the smartphone. Uh, Highly recommend people to video, because video doesn't lie. Basically tells you what you're doing. So it's basically that technology which used to be like premium like 20 years back, to get high frame rate videos of playing and things like that. It's all become commoditized. So it's pretty much easy to whip out your phone, get a video, and then show it to your coaches. And from an app standpoint, right, there are lots of apps that have come out. I mean, I could group them into like two categories. One is a coaching aid for biomechanical analysis. So, things like Dartfish, Huddle. Then there are Coach's Eye. I think I don't know Coach's Eye is still active or not, but these were some good apps where, you can really slow down, draw lines and see like what angles. So and for instance, if in a serve, some players do not bend their knees enough. So you can actually do a side-by-side analysis and say, what is your leg drive? How fast, how low you get? Because getting too low is bad and not getting low is bad either. Things like that. So you can do side-by-side analysis. Then, so one of the apps that I would recommend is, especially for coaches and for parents, is the PTR Coach Plus app, because it's very simple. It does not get too complicated in terms of, it's minimalistic, and it tells you can do side-by-side comparisons with, any given video. Moving on, for more match analysis, there are now apps like Swing Vision, where you can basically uh, look at the entire video of a match, and it basically charts the match, and it shrinks the video for you, and by cutting out the dead time, and it tells you where the balls went, just basically where were you while playing the shot, um, and from where, and how much you push your opponent, where you push them back, you brought them forward, all the heat maps of ball on the court as well as hitting position. So these are very good tools to have. Um, the other apps I would recommend that I'm hearing a lot about is Racket Stats. So this app is, again, if you remember, I told you, talked about charting a match. So with the Racket Stat app, you can actually sit there and do the same thing essentially, and just code what happened in every stroke, and by the end of it, you probably will have a um, uh, good charts and graphs as to what happened in that match. And then, yeah, so, I mean, there are lots of other services, apps and services. There is one that I would recommend for team captains. For team captains, whether you're managing junior team tennis or rec tennis, it's a nightmare. And captaincy is something that Soham is very well versed.
Tell me about it. It's
Yeah. If
scheduling for sure.
yeah, oh yes, and I'm sure he will launch into multiple rants, but we'll spare you that. So, so there are apps like Team Reach, Team Snap, just to mention a few, which let you manage teams. Add your rosters, set the dates and
Isn't there
reminders.
another one called Match Time or Match Play or something of that sort?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, yes, yes. Lots of these apps. Yes. So yeah. So a lot of these things, there are lots of these things out there. But the one thing I would say, the underlying thing I would say, as a techie, is that lots of these apps and services, they are made by independent developers, small companies. They are not, big tech like Apple or Google, or just to name a few. So many times they would listen to your feedback. So I would definitely say support this industry. Use these apps. If you find it useful, give them a shout out. If you don't find it useful, I'm pretty sure they will listen to you. So because you will get to somebody to talk to. So yeah.
That's a great point, and I
Yeah.
think like feedback is always good.
Yep.
Now, feedback to any of the companies who are who have products out there, but also feedback to us as well
Yep.
at Tennishackery. Like we embrace it. We like feedback, comments, feedback, whatever we get,
Yep.
good or bad, right? It helps us improve. It helps us stay on top of the game. It helps us, more motivated to give you good content.
Yep.
Now,
For sure.
we have spoken a lot about the evolution, about technology and tennis in general. Tarun, we came together, as well as including Alex, with a vision and a mission
Right.
to bring technology as one leg of Tennishackery, right?
Yes.
What I want to ask you, and you can speak for all of us, is what's how are we at Tennishackery going to use technology to make it more wholesome for our tennis players?
Man, if I give you do you want to let our plan out for world domination out like this? No, I'm just
Uh,
kidding. Yeah.
I want you to give a flavor of what we anticipate in the future, because I want our audience to be gripped and excited, and there should be an element of mystery, obviously.
Oh, yes,
But
yes, yes. Oh,
we
definitely.
we want to just generally talk high level on
Yes.
what's our vision, and of course, we are a technology company. Uh, and what do you have to say?
Oh, yes, definitely. So some of the things that, this that we'd like to do is a lot of work in video analysis, which is out that we could do. So we are coaches, we are good with technology. I'm sure we do have plans to build stuff by which we can actually uh, do video analysis. Uh, we can help other coaches do video analysis so that, typically a lot of these coaches are spending time on court coaching. But what about when they're off the court? Like, how do we get them to, because they may not have the technical skills. But if we can do something to kind of make the coaching via video analysis simple, that would be awesome. And we have plans to do stuff like that.
Absolutely, and we
Yep.
want to be innovative. We want to be an innovative product. We are constantly getting feedback from our students, from other players, and we want to kind of, positively take some of the feedback and develop something. We are genuinely interested in,
Yep.
uh, you know, bringing together and creating sort of a wholesome tennis experience
Experience.
for
Absolutely. Yeah.
all the folks out there who
Well
like
said.
this.
Well said. Yeah.
So definitely technology is important, and as we have already done in the previous episodes, fitness, I mean, physical fitness as well as the mindset, everything is important. And I think we already also spoke about nutrition. So, we've had a very, very informative and educational episode as always. Again, we missed Alex.
Yep.
She's been very busy with coaching, and so we let her off the hook in this episode. She will be back in the next episode. We have some very, very exciting content coming up in the future episodes. We'll be bringing over guests. I know you guys haven't seen any guests on our channel yet,
Yep.
on our podcast, but you will definitely be seeing
Yes.
some in the upcoming episodes. So definitely stay tuned for those. We are very excited. And Tarun, there's nobody better than you when it comes to talking about social. So I'm going to let you do that.
Hey, yes. Is that a compliment or an insult, man?
No, no. We
I-
there are no insults
yes, yes, I know.
folks. When I talk about Tarun,
Mhm.
he is the guy. He is the Joe. Joe means jack of all trades. So he's
Yes.
knowledgeable not only about the history of tennis, but also about technology and various other aspects, including. But I want to say one real quick thing before I hand it over to Tarun. You know, Tarun, I had to educate Tarun a little bit on Instagram.
Yes.
So you'll see that I usually make the first post on Instagram,
Yep.
but Tarun is the master of X and Meta. So
Facebook. No, Facebook.
right. So Tarun, you know, please finish off the episode with your regular kind of spiel on
Yep,
social
yep,
media.
yep, yep, yep. Again, folks, please give us a follow at Tennishackery. Please like, share, subscribe. We are on all the usual social platforms that we just talked about. We are on X, we are on Meta, YouTube, Spotify. Uh, we will get on TikTok with the TikTok dance, and once we hit 500 subscribers, that is a promise. And Soham will be our choreographer, and he's already bringing out his dance moves. So, and our website will launch soon. And please, again, like, follow, share, subscribe, comment. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Our email is tennishackery@gmail.com if you want to send long emails, but social platforms are the best so that, there is pretty much real time. And that's about it. Thank you for watching, listening. Hope to see you next time.
We will see you guys all, and thank you again for listening. And that's our episode 5 on technology in tennis. And we are very happy to hear your feedback and comments. And as Tarun said, please do subscribe to our social media handles. And looking forward to bringing out some exciting stuff in our next episode 6. So stay tuned. Thank you, guys.